Welcome to my channel. Imagine this. One day, you wake up in Paris. The air smells like bread. The streets are old and beautiful. You see people talking, laughing, and living their lives. But when you try to ask for coffee, you freeze. You don't know the words. You feel small. What will you do? Have you ever visited a foreign country? Or are you planning to go? Which city will you visit first? I'd love to hear your story. Chapter 1. My dream to visit Paris. My name is Adam. I am 27 years old. I live in a small city. I have never been outside my country. But for many years I had one dream. I wanted to visit Paris. Yes, Paris. The city of lights. The city of love. The city of stories. When I was a child, I saw it in books. I saw the Eiffel Tower. I saw the cafes, the bridges, the artists. I always thought, one day I will go there. But life was not easy. I had a job. I had to save money. And I had one more big problem. My English was not good. I could understand a little. I watched movies. I listened to podcasts. But speaking was different. My mouth did not move. My heart beat fast. I was afraid to make mistakes. I thought people would laugh at me. So I stayed silent. And my dream stayed far away. One evening, I was walking home from work. I saw a small travel poster on a wall. It said, "Fly to Paris, special price." I stopped. I looked again. My heart jumped. I went home and searched for flights. I saw videos of people walking in Paris streets. I saw families near the Eiffel Tower. I imagined myself there, drinking coffee, taking photos, smiling. But then I stopped. A voice in my head said, "But you don't speak English well. What will you do at the airport? What will you say at the hotel? How will you order food?" I closed my laptop, but I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I thought about my life. I thought, if not now, when? I remembered a quote. "Travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer." I said to myself, I will learn. I will speak. I will try. The next morning, I started to plan. I watched travel videos in English. I repeated the sentences. I learned how to say, "Where is the hotel? How much is this? Can I get coffee, please?" I made flashcards. I listened to English stories while I ate breakfast. I wrote small notes in English every day. I didn't feel ready, but I felt brave. That was enough. Weeks passed. My savings grew. My vocabulary grew. One day, I opened my laptop again. I searched the flights. My hands shook. I clicked, "Book now." I bought the ticket. I looked at the screen. It said, "Confirmed. You are flying to Paris." I smiled. But deep inside, one thought came again. How will I survive in English? Chapter 2. First day in Paris. Lost and excited. The plane landed. My hands were cold. My heart was fast. I looked out of the window. I saw the airport lights. I saw the name, Paris. I could not believe it. I was really here. After all these years, I was really in Paris. I smiled, but my stomach felt strange. I was happy, but I was scared too. I followed the people to the airport exit. I saw many signs. Most were in French, some were in English. I tried to read them, but my eyes moved too fast. I stood there. I didn't know where to go. Taxi. Bus. Metro, I whispered. I needed to go to my hotel, but I didn't know how. I had written the name of the hotel on a small paper. I took it out and looked at it. Hotel Jardin Montmartre. I walked outside. The air was cold and fresh. I saw a long line of taxis. I took a deep breath and walked to one of them. The driver opened the door and looked at me. I said, "Hello, Hotel Jardin Montmartre." I showed him the paper. He looked at it, then at me. He spoke in French. I didn't understand. He said something again, louder. I felt my face turn red. I tried again. "Please, I go, hotel?" I said slowly. He still looked confused. My hands started to shake. I looked around. So many people. So many sounds. I felt lost. Then I heard a voice. "Do you need help?" It was clear English. I turned around. A woman smiled at me. She looked about 30 years old. She had a big camera around her neck. "I know that hotel," she said. "It's near my place. I can tell the driver for you." I felt so thankful. "Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. My English is not good," I said. She smiled again. "No problem. You're doing great. You're trying. That's what matters." She spoke to the driver in French. He nodded. I got into the taxi. I waved goodbye to her. She waved back and said, "Enjoy Paris." As the taxi moved, I looked out of the window. The streets were wide. The buildings were old and beautiful. There were lights everywhere. Some people rode bikes. Some sat in cafes with cups of coffee. It felt like a dream, but I still felt nervous. The driver stopped. He pointed at the building and said something. I understood the word arrivé. I guessed it meant arrived. I gave him the money and got out. I looked up at the hotel. It was small but pretty. There were flowers on the windows. I walked inside. The woman at the desk smiled. "Bonjour," she said. I smiled back and said, "Hello, I have a room. My name is Adam." She asked something in French. I didn't understand. She noticed my face and said in English, "Passport, please." I felt a little better. I gave her my passport. She gave me a key and said, "Room 203, stairs that way." I climbed the stairs. My suitcase was heavy, but my heart was light. I opened the door. It was a small room with a bed and a window. I dropped my bag and sat down. I did it. I was in Paris. I got through the airport. I took a taxi. I checked into a hotel. In English. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I felt afraid. But I made it. I stood near the window and looked outside. The street was quiet now. The lights were soft. I whispered, "Thank you." Not to anyone, just to myself, because I had started something, and I was ready for more. Chapter 3. At the Café, speaking English for the first time. The next morning, I woke up early. I opened the window. The sky was soft and blue. I heard birds. I smelled something good. warm and sweet. It was bread, fresh bread. Somewhere near, someone was baking. My stomach made a little sound. I laughed. "Okay," I said. "Let's find breakfast." I put on my shoes and jacket. I took my phone and hotel key. I walked slowly down the street. It was quiet. The shops were closed, but the cafes were open. I saw small tables outside. People were drinking coffee. Some read newspapers. Some just watched the street. I stopped in front of one cafe. It looked simple but nice. I went inside. The smell hit me. Bread, coffee, butter. I loved it. I found a small table in the corner and sat down. A waiter came to me. He was young and had kind eyes. He said something in French. I smiled and said, "Hello." I pointed to the menu. "English?" He smiled back and nodded. "Little English," he said. I looked at the menu. It had many words I didn't know. Croissant, tartine, quiche, pain au chocolat. I knew coffee, but the rest? I didn't want to ask too many questions. I didn't want to sound silly. But I remembered what I promised myself. Just speak. So I looked up at the waiter and said slowly, "I want coffee and bread, please." He smiled. "Coffee. Okay, bread." He pointed to two things on the menu. "Croissant or tartine?" I didn't know tartine, so I pointed to croissant. "Yes, this." He nodded. "One coffee. One croissant." "Okay." I said, "Yes. Thank you." He left. I sat there, my heart beating fast. I had spoken. I had asked for something. I had used English. It was not perfect. But it worked. After a few minutes, the waiter returned. He put a white plate in front of me. A golden croissant sat on it. Next to it, a small cup of coffee. "Here," he said. "Enjoy." I smiled. "Thank you so much." He looked surprised. Then he smiled back. "Your English? Good." I laughed a little. "Not good, but I try." He gave a thumbs up and walked away. I took a bite of the croissant. It was soft inside, crispy outside. Butter and air. It was the best bread I ever ate. I sipped the coffee. It was strong but nice. I looked around. No one was watching me. No one was laughing. No one cared if my English was perfect. They just smiled. They helped. At that moment, I felt something new. Confidence. I had spoken 3 sentences. I want coffee. I want bread. Thank you so much. It was small, but it was a start. I felt like I could do more. I opened the notebook in my bag. I wrote the words I used. I wrote new words, too. Croissant, waiter, café. I drew small pictures next to them. I wanted to remember everything. When I finished eating, I stood up. I went to the counter. I said, "How much?" The waiter told me the price. I gave the money and said, "Keep the change." He smiled. "Have a nice day." I said, "You too." I walked out of the cafe and onto the street. The sun was warm now. I felt taller, stronger. I was not just a tourist in Paris. I was a learner, a speaker, a doer. That morning, I learned something important. You don't need perfect grammar to speak. You don't need big words. You just need to try. People will help you. The world is kinder than you think. And I knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 4. Visiting the Eiffel Tower and learning culture. After breakfast, I went back to the hotel. I looked at the small map they gave me at the reception. One place had a red circle around it. The Eiffel Tower. I smiled. This was the place I always saw in pictures, the place I dreamed of. I packed my bag, water, notebook, phone, and left. I was ready. Outside, the streets were busy now. People were walking fast. Some had flowers in their hands. Some had small dogs. The buildings were tall, old, and full of stories. I walked to the metro station. It was my first time using the metro in Paris. I read the signs. I followed the arrows. Tour Eiffel, one sign said. I followed it like a child follows a balloon in the sky. When I came out of the metro, I saw it. The Eiffel Tower, tall, beautiful, strong. My mouth stayed open. I forgot to take my phone out. I just looked. I stood there for a long time. The tower touched the sky. Birds flew near it. People stood under it like ants. I walked closer. I saw many tourists. Some took pictures. Some stood in lines. Some ate ice cream. I joined a group for a guided tour. The guide was a woman. She held a blue umbrella and smiled at everyone. She spoke in English. She said, "Welcome to the Eiffel Tower. It is 330 meters tall. It was built in 1889. Do you know why?" We all looked at her. She said, "It was for the World's Fair, a big event where countries show their science, art, and culture." I listened carefully. Her English was slow and clear. I understood most of her words. She used simple vocabulary, just like my teacher in school. I took notes. She said, "The Eiffel Tower has 3 levels. You can go up by stairs or lift. From the top, you can see all of Paris." She pointed to the river. That is the River Seine. It goes through the heart of the city. On both sides, you see famous places, museums, bridges, old churches. I looked where she pointed. I saw boats moving on the river. I saw people walking on the bridges. The water was calm. The buildings were white and gray. It felt like a painting. She talked about culture, too. "In France," she said, "we say bonjour when we enter a shop. We say merci when someone helps us. We sit long at the café. We enjoy food. We walk more, rush less." I liked that. I thought, maybe I can learn more than just English. Maybe I can learn how to live slowly. Then she said something special. "Now, please turn to the person next to you. Say hello. Ask where they are from." I turned. A boy stood beside me. He looked friendly. I said, "Hello, I am Adam. I am from United States." He smiled. "Hi, I'm Diego. I'm from Brazil." I felt my hands shake, but I continued. "This is my first time in Paris." He said, "Me too." I smiled. "It's beautiful." He nodded. "Yes, very." We both laughed. It was my first full conversation in English. It was short, but it was real. I didn't stop after one word. I didn't freeze. I spoke. I listened. I replied. We took a photo together in front of the tower. I will never forget it. After the tour, I walked to the river. I sat on a bench and watched the boats. I wrote in my notebook, "Today I saw the Eiffel Tower. I spoke to a stranger in English. I learned about French history. I learned how people live here. I felt proud. I felt alive." I closed the notebook and looked up. Paris was big, but not scary now. I understood more. I believed more. I was not just a tourist anymore. I was part of this world. Chapter 5. Making Friends, Talking with Tourists. The next day, the sun was shining again. I felt excited. I was ready to explore more of Paris. But this time, I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to walk alone. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to speak more English. I went to a small travel shop near the hotel. A sign said, "Walking tour today at 10 a.m. Meet new friends. Explore the city. English only." I smiled when I read that. It felt like a chance, a new door. I paid for the tour and walked to the meeting point. There were 12 people in the group. Some looked young, some older. They were from many different countries: Japan, Italy, Brazil, Germany, Turkey. But we all had one thing in common. We all used English to speak. The guide smiled and said, "Let's introduce ourselves. Say your name and where you're from." When it was my turn, I said, "Hello, I'm Adam. I'm from the United States. I'm happy to be here." People smiled at me. Some said, "Nice to meet you." One person said, "I love your country's food." I felt warm inside. I didn't feel small. I felt seen. We started walking. The guide showed us old streets, hidden parks, small bakeries. She told short stories. She used simple English so we all could understand. And while we walked, we talked. I walked beside a girl named Elena. She was from Italy. She had short hair and a kind voice. She said, "I'm learning English too." I said, "Me too. Speaking is hard, but we try." She laughed. "Yes, but when we travel, we must speak." I said, "Yes. We learn faster when we speak." We talked about food. I said, "I love biryani." She said she loves pasta. We laughed. We talked about our cities, about dreams, about why we travel. It was easy. It was fun. It was English. Not perfect, but real. We reached a small hill with a view of Paris. The guide gave us time to rest. Some people took pictures. Some sat on the grass. I sat with Elena. She looked at the view and said, "It's beautiful." I said, "Yes, like a movie." Then she said something that touched my heart. "We have some food. Would you like to join our picnic?" I looked surprised. "Really?" She nodded. "Yes, I came with 2 friends. We have bread, cheese, juice." I smiled. "Thank you. I'd love to." We sat together under a tree. They gave me a small plate. We shared food. We shared stories. We used English. We made mistakes. We laughed. But no one corrected anyone. No one laughed at anyone. We just talked. It was honest. It was warm. It was real communication. I looked around and saw people from different countries, talking, smiling, understanding each other with one simple tool: English. In that moment, I understood something big. English is not just grammar, not just rules. English is connection. It helps you see the world. It helps you understand people. It builds bridges. That picnic was one of the best moments of my life. Before we left, we took a photo together. Elena said, "Now we're friends." I said, "Yes, thanks to English." We walked back together, slowly, talking, smiling. I didn't worry about mistakes anymore. I knew my English wasn't perfect, but I was not afraid now, because I had used it to make a friend, and in that one afternoon, I felt like I had grown years in my journey. Chapter 6. Last Day. Saying goodbye, but not to English. It was my last morning in Paris. The suitcase stood near the door. My clothes were packed. My ticket was ready. But my heart was full. I looked out of the window. The same quiet street, the same small bakery, the same air filled with the smell of coffee and bread. But something had changed. I had changed. When I came here, I was scared to speak. I didn't trust myself. I was afraid of every sentence. Every word felt heavy. I thought people would laugh. I thought I would make mistakes, and people would not understand me. But I was wrong. In just a few days, I spoke more than I had in months. I ordered coffee. I asked for help. I talked to a stranger. I joined a walking tour. I made a friend. I laughed. I listened. I learned. Not from a book, not from a classroom, but from the world. English was not just something I studied, it became part of me. I went downstairs for one last breakfast. The same café, the same waiter. He saw me and smiled. "Bonjour," he said. I smiled back. "Good morning. One coffee, one croissant, please?" He nodded. Of course. He didn't speak slowly anymore. He didn't need to. He knew I could understand. I sat by the window and watched the street. A girl walked her dog. A man read the newspaper. Life moved like a quiet song. The coffee came. The croissant, too. I took small bites, slow sips. I wanted to remember this. The sounds, the smells, the feelings. When I finished, I stood up and went to the counter. The waiter said, "Leaving today?" I said, "Yes." "Last day. Thank you. For everything." He smiled and said, "Come back again." I nodded. "I will." I walked back to the hotel. I checked out. I said goodbye in English. They smiled and replied in English too. It felt so easy now, so light. I wasn't perfect, but I was confident. Outside, the taxi was waiting. I got in and looked out of the window. The city moved past me. The river, the bridges, the tower. Every place had a story. Every story had words. And every word I had spoken with my own voice. At the airport, I passed through security. I spoke to the officer. I answered the questions. I didn't shake. I didn't panic. I just spoke. Like a normal person. Like someone who can speak English. I sat near the gate. I took out my notebook. I wrote, "I came to Paris with fear. I leave Paris with joy. I found my voice. I spoke my heart. I made mistakes, but I also made memories. I will not stop here. I will keep learning. I will keep speaking. I closed the notebook and looked at the plane through the window. Travel changes you. Not just the place you go, but the person you become. Paris was not just a city I visited. It was a door to confidence, a door to courage, a door to English. And as I stood up to board my flight, I smiled and whispered to myself, "Next time, I will visit London, and I will speak English again." Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments, which city do you dream of visiting? Is it New York, Tokyo, London, or maybe Rome? Let's make it real with your English. And if this story helped you feel more confident, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your English learning friends. We'll travel the world with English, one story at a time.